do it pretty fast.
Want to go back? All right, Amy, all yours.
Okay, it is, I think, 6:50, and I'm going to call to order the Public Health and Safety Committee. We do have several items tonight on the agenda. They shouldn't take too long, so we're going to go ahead and start with the first item, which we get every year, and we're very thankful for SwageLock for this. The first item is a $1,000 donation for police and fire, so that would be totaling of $2,000. It's a donation they give to both departments every year out of their, I think it's their employee fund. But anyways, it is to both departments. There's no match. This is just a generous gift that they do give to us. So any questions from my committee on this?
And it looks like goes to,
Take the money and run, yep.
yeah, take the money and run, but it looks like goes to the general fund under the police department, under the notes.
Yeah, it goes to them, both of them. Yeah, they put it in there. It shouldn't go to the general fund,
It goes in the general fund.
to the police department though, right?
I mean, the general fund encompasses the police and fire, yeah.
Okay,
Fund-
all right.
Yes,
That's-
yeah.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. All right, we'll go ahead and move that to Committee of a Whole. Next item is a $25 donation for the police department. And that's from Don Ashton. Jake, is there anything you want to say, or just thanking him for the donation? I guess this is just making it official that we're accepting it. There's no match required, and this is for the police department. Okay,
Good to move it forward.
we're going to go ahead and move that forward. Authorizing, the next item would be a second school resource officer contract, which this was discussed when we talked about hiring the additional police officers. The superintendent had reached out to our fire chief, or not fire chief, our police chief, in regards to this. They needed the additional help, and it was a grant, I believe, part of it?
The school guy, yes.
Yes, a grant that the school got. I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to you to let you talk more about it in case there's any other questions. I don't think there's any really changes from the contract that the first resource officer that we had.
It's a carbon copy of the first one. All the language is the same except the beginning date and ending date. We had a transfer come over with the 4 new hires. This spot's actually filling Chief Wallace's spot. But it was important enough where, once we fill that road position, we put one in the schools. Schools are very thankful. Like I said, when we talked about the 4 new positions, the schools are gonna pick up her salary or half of her salary according to the contract.
And the officer that is going to be taking this position, Jake, do you want to announce?
Patrolman Heather Waldeck.
So we're going to have a female
Fantastic.
as well. So it's a nice diversity for both. So I'm excited to get a second school resource officer because I do know it is needed. So
Is there going to be one officer assigned to one specific school? Is that how, or they're just going to kind of float?
Starting off with, I think Heather is going to start in the high school because Brown is a bigger problem.
Yeah,
And Patrolman Lincoln has a little more experience. So until she gets a little more comfortable with what the job entails, he'll be at Brown primarily.
okay, that's fantastic. Thank you.
okay. Any questions between Matt and Tyler?
I did have one question. So part of the primary functions mentioned in the contract, it talks about some of the educational opportunities for the district to, share with, police officers to share with kids. Do we have any particular content that we're trying to increase awareness of? Because remember we talked about scooter awareness for how to safely use those and where. Is some of that content being part of that educational focus for what's shared in the district with students?
It's part of it, yes. Anything that we put out, Steve or Heather will put out to the kids in the school environment.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Are we okay to send this forward?
good to move it forward.
Okay. Next item is the adjusting the ambulance billing. And Tammy and Mark and I met about a month ago, I would say, and we kind of talked about it, and it made a little bit more sense. It's something that none of us really want to do, but and I have the numbers, if nothing has changed since our last conversation, and correct me, please, if I'm reading numbers that are not right. I don't know if you switched numbers since our last conversation. Mark, do you want to go ahead and talk, or?
I can. I emailed the committee back on January 6th.
Right,
This-
and then we met,
Right. Well, we discussed prior.
yes,
So to back up a little bit, in October of '25, LifeForce sent us a recommendation sheet of what they feel our ambulance billing is, where it's at and where it should be. And the recommendation that they gave us far exceeds the change that we are presenting today. We felt that since we do need to adjust it to some degree to say we can start regaining some of the losses that we're spending out of our own pocket for the equipment that we have, such as bandages, saline solutions, needles, and stuff like that, that we don't always get replaced for by the hospital. So we went from our basic life support charges that we are currently are at $650. We're asking to change them to $750. The recommended amount was $850, so that alone was $100 less than what the recommendation was.
yeah, we didn't go as high as
Correct.
what the recommendation was,
Correct.
because we felt that was entirely too much, too soon. But again, with most of our clients being on Medicaid
And
and Medicare, they will pay a higher pay. So what we were looking at was like around $60,000 difference that we would be, I have $60,000 that we're spending roughly out of the general fund.
We
And
spend $60,000
Yes.
currently. That's what's appropriated to me as my budget for supplies and materials for the ambulance. Correct.
Okay, so with changing some of the fees and knowing that Medicare and Medicaid will be paying a higher amount, it makes sense that, we're recouping our cost.
So Medicare and Medicaid, they have gone up for what they are paying, but they pay a very minimal amount of what we bill. So if we bill for the $650 currently, they're only paying about $200 on an average for that type of service that we provide. Private insurances, such as Anthem, Medical Mutual, whatnot, will pay like a 80-20 once a copay is met. So the individuals who are more impacted by this would be people that are on private insurance, self-pay, or private insurance and the veterans, because we did check on that. But to my understanding, the VA clinic is also government subsidized, so we would only get what they guarantee the payment of as well. So try to explain this very easily. You cannot go after an individual if Medicare and Medicaid, up and above what Medicare and Medicaid pays. If they only pay $200, it's it. The rest is a wash, it's a done. You can't send them collections, you can't do anything. Private insurance is totally different. We bill you for the $750, they pay $450 of it. That's the 80%. You're responsible for the other 20%, and we can send you. We don't soft bill. Soft billing is basically accepting what insurance pays, and then we just write off the rest. We actually send you through a collection process to get the remaining balance of that money. Of that money, we have already gained about $25,000 this year and recovered just because we do bill for the differences.
So if we did soft billing, we would lose
That much more money.
a lot of money.
We would have to actually increase our rates even higher.
So 84% of our clientele is Medicare and Medicaid that we're serving.
Correct.
So that gives you a lot of numbers there, because I did try to advocate on the soft billing, and, but unfortunately, you can't.
So this is what came from LifeForce. So 28% is Medicaid, 56% is Medicare, 6% is private, 3% is MVA, and you say MVA. So basically, if I was in a car accident, I'm at fault, you're actually billing my car insurance, not my medical or your medical insurance. 5% is self-pay and 2% is VA. So the ones that would be affected of the increase would be the private insurance, the MVA, and the self-pay. And that's just for the basic life. So the advanced life support, we want to go from $750 to $850. Advanced life support 2, and you'll ask me what's the difference between advanced life support 1 and advanced life support 2. Advanced life support 2 is where we would actually do like administrate like drugs. If we gave you some kind of aerosol treatment, we had to push any kind of medication. It's a more invasive procedure, so we bill at a higher rate for that. So that would go from $8.25 to $9.50. Our non-transport charges, we want to go from $75 to $125. They actually wanted us to go to $300. We thought that was a little bit too steep. It's a lot, and I'll be honest with you, we have a lot of non-transports. I think if we just see where the dust settles off the $50 increase that we're asking for, we'd be surprised how much more we collect just off of that alone. And then for mileage, we were charging $12. We bumped it up to $16 a mile for reimbursement off of mileage. And those are all the changes.
Tammy, do you have anything you'd like to say in regards to this on the
No,
financial picture?
Mark did a great job of talking to Chris Knapp and getting a lot of information, which cleared this up for us. And I think we need to move ahead with the modest increases.
Yeah, we didn't go with the extreme, but it was a gradual. And like I said, I know it was a concern, unfortunately, on the insurance people and the self-pay. But in reality, everything is moving up, and in order to stay financially sound, we have to charge appropriately.
And I'll make one comment. I mean, I'm all for this, but I'll just say one particular ride-along I went on to. This one lady was shocked that she was going to be charged anything for them to come out. It was a non-transport, but she thought everything was going to be free. And like I said, I'm all for this that's recommended, but I was just surprised she thought it was a free. She thought it was going to be a freebie, and it wasn't. And
So Tyler and Matt, are you okay with moving this forward to committee of a whole for further discussion with the rest of council? And the increases, okay?
Same here.
Okay, all right, we're going to go ahead and move that forward. Thank you, Mark and Tammy, on this, so.
You're welcome.
Okay. I think, was that everything?
Hey, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
And if I'm going about the wrong way, just stop me. So, and I'll take full blame for this. A couple months ago, we put in a tracking sheet to put our squad that we removed from service since we got the 2 new ones. And at that time, we put in a tracking sheet to put it for bid. We received no bids. So I was kind of under the impression after talking to Mr. Semino, who I understand left now, that since we didn't receive any bids, we can just sell it. I don't know, lack of a better term, the politics behind selling it. So I thought, well, we already did our due diligence, going through the tracking sheet of going through council to put their bid. So we have every right just to sell it. We don't have any further action.
Well, I'm confused. Wasn't there a buyer?
Yeah, but remember, we had to go ahead
Why
and put
didn't
it
they
through.
bid?
Well, we had a department that had interest, but they didn't have the funds secured, so they couldn't put in a bid at the time.
Well, then rebid it when they have the funds.
Well,
But it doesn't matter now that it
doesn't
didn't
matter because
bid.
We didn't get a bid, so.
I don't know
so-
that-
So that entity that wants to buy it gave a purchase agreement to us for $30,000 and
Right.
actually submitted a check with it.
Well, I understand, but I don't know that just because a bidding process fails that you automatically get to do what you want. I still think you gotta go out and bid it again.
I don't think you do.
No, you
The
don't have to
original-
rebid it. We just have to create, according to Mr. Semino, we have to create a tracking sheet.
Correct.
For a purchase agreement. So what I'm asking is, since we've already kind of got the cart before the horse, so to speak, if I put in a tracking sheet, can we present this to council, the whole, so that we don't have a municipality who needs a squad, who's actually came up with the funds for the squad?
I
Who gave
agree.
us a letter of intent to buy the squad, that we can kind of expedite this and not keep this tabled for another month where we're housing
Right.
something that we don't need.
I agree.
And they can actually have something that they do need and just move forward with it.
We've done this in the past, I believe, and we did do our due diligence of doing the, as you said, the auction or the bidding process, and that was what we had to do. That's what stopped the whole process of them buying it. So we did what we had to do legally. So I feel that since we did that, there was no bids, no one attempted to buy it, that and we can double check this, I think, with Semino, but if Semino's okay with it, I don't see a problem.
Amy, he did, sorry to interrupt, he did say today, we asked him today, I have by email, if he was still here, he would confirm. He said, since there was no bid at that time, we are good as long as there is intent to buy from Wyndham, that we could enter into that agreement. We just have to go before council because it's 30,000, so
Right.
it's over the 25,000
That's fine.
So
threshold.
since it is, if
Yeah.
I put in the tracking sheet, can we
Yeah, no,
discuss
that's
this on
fine.
next
That's-
Monday?
That's fine.
Or Tuesday,
Tuesday.
since Monday's a holiday?
Yeah, no, that's perfectly within the process to,
I appreciate it, because Wyndham's asking me a bunch of questions like when, how, and whatnot, and I don't have an answer for them. So I'm hoping that I can, by tomorrow morning, be able to present something back to them of how we're gonna
It can be a
make this
special,
transition go through.
I mean, it can be through my committee. I mean, it was through my
Well, we
committee,
do- well,
so,
okay, first of all, next month, we do have a special. Not
Next week,
Tuesday, we
yes.
do have a special where we're going to have a public comment on the comprehensive plan. I was just doing something, but did you indicate that we had to do this soon?
yes, next week.
Yeah,
I mean, as far as committee of the whole approving it, that's fine, but it can't wait till February 2nd?
No.
well, if it passes on February 2nd, if it goes to committee on the 2nd and then gets passed by council on the first Monday of the month as full council, I could tell them on Monday, on the 2nd, then we're good to go.
Okay.
And then they
Well,
can take it on Monday the 2nd,
Well,
if
let's-
that's what,
Let's make sure we understand. I mean, I
Yes,
don't know that
well,
anybody
I
opposes
wanna
it, but we
understand.
can't broadcast that it's going to be passed, you know?
right, no.
I'm just saying, we can, I don't always like putting agenda items on the committee of the whole with a special following it, assuming it's even going to be on the agenda, because that's what the committee of the whole does.
Okay.
But if it's like an emergency situation, we can do that. We're going to do that for the GAP thing, when we talk about that too.
So if it passes committee of the whole,
I would just
Yeah,
do
it-
it next week and continuous, and so that they
Well,
have
actually,
it.
I have to take that back. If, let's do it this way. If you're still under your committee, right?
Yes,
You can still consider this as your committee. If your committee moves it on,
Yes.
then we can put it on the special. We can't put it on the special if it only appears in the committee of the whole,
Yeah,
because
this is-
that's when we authorize something to be on an agenda.
yeah, this would be considered any other business,
Yeah,
so
no, this is fine.
we'll go ahead, Mark, and we're going to move this forward to next week.
that's fine, and I'll still put it in the tracking
Yes.
sheet, just to make sure that the
Yeah.
guys are dotted and the T's are
You
crossed.
could use the one you had before if you want.
Update the date.
And then we'll have it on the committee of the whole, and we'll have it on the special now that it's been, I assume it's passed your committee?
Yep, everyone was good with it.
All right, we're good to go. Sorry about that, Mark.
Okay, Mayor, do you have any updates?
we did have some conversation at a meeting that we had this past week that we're also, in terms of the fire department, going to look for other ways to approach it to try and get the volume down, besides just adding people or people that go out on these calls, especially if they're going to nursing homes or those sorts of things. I think we're going to have to polish that a little bit because we're being taken advantage of with that. Something as simple as a patient falls down, they don't allow their people to pick them up. They call us, and we have to go out because they're afraid of getting sued if something happens with that. But there are other things that we're going to look at to try and tighten this up.
Okay. All right, and I do anticipate some other changes coming next month as well. So we've got a lot of things going through public health and safety, so stay tuned. At this time, at 7:10, I'm going to adjourn this committee.
7:10, I will call Streets and Sidewalks Committee meeting to order. One item for consideration this evening. As you can see, it's the purchase of a new sewer camera and van for the street department. This is actually a vital piece of equipment for them. I've talked to Jason, the street supervisor, a couple of times today. I believe he's talked to Dr. Calfee as well about this. The camera, the current van we have used to be the street department meter van that was passed down to the street department, or the water department meter van that was passed down to the street department for this purpose. The camera they have is getting older and very difficult to keep running and get parts for. Again, this piece of equipment, if you're not familiar with it, they can lower it down through the sewer, storm drains, and it's motorized. It can go down through the drains and look for clogs, issues, whatever kind of problems. We can find problems with this piece of equipment. It's helped us in the past. It's helped Mr. Finney identify some areas when we've had those storm floods a year and a half ago. It's identified some areas that he's now been able to correct, and he's continuing to work on correcting those items. You can see the price of this camera and van is pretty significant. But again, it's a vital piece of equipment to keep our storm and sewer lines clear and open, and identifying problems that we can go down and fix for our residents when there are issues. The funding will come from the streets, part of the funding will come from street CI and storm and sewer.
Correct. The van itself is going to come from a split of 4 different accounts. And the sewer, the camera portion of it will be, because it's primarily used for the sanitary fund and the storm fund. We're going to split it out of those two accounts. I'll work up an exhibit so you guys can see where that money's coming from.
Mr. Harper, I have a question. I'm not saying anything against it. My question is, the existing van, will that be disposed of or used for a different purpose?
We're going to sell it to Wyndham.
I asked him what the plans were for that vehicle, and he basically said it's on its last leg. There's very little value, but we don't have a set direction for that vehicle at this time. It may end up going to scrap. It may, I think the life's pretty well used out of that van. If you've been out in town, you've seen it sitting in the middle of the road with the the wire coming out the back of it. They're down there searching the drains. You could see that van. It's it's seen better days. And really, the only special thing, they're not gonna need additional equipment for this van once it's purchased. It's gonna come with an inverter, and they need that to run the camera off of the van's battery system. So there won't be additional expenses once this stuff comes in.
Like you said, Mr. Harper, it is, when you look at it, it is an expensive purchase, but it's multiple things that they are purchasing. It's the van, which is a big upgrade to the existing van that we have, the new cameras, and then also a new tractor to take the camera through the pipes, and 5 sets of interchangeable wheels to put on the camera to be able to better maneuver it through the piping systems, the computer to analyze the data off of the cameras, and a way of storing all of that. So it replaces not just the van that we have, but also the tractor, the camera, a number of things. And I agree, if you look at the van, when you see it out on the street, it's completely worn out from use on its responsibilities.
Yeah, and the different size wheels, different texture of the wheels, those are needed because they're going through different lines that have different stuff in them, and they need different traction for different situations. So all this stuff is needed, and the spec sheet is there with all that stuff listed out. Thank you for pointing that out.
Mr. Harper, I had a question as well.
Yes.
Given the price of this and the volume of the equipment, do we have an idea of what the expected longevity of this new equipment is? Is like, what's the warranty? What's the expected, like, service life for the parts and availability kind of stuff? Mr. Finney, can you speak to this?
There's no reason a van would not last 10 years.
I'm not worried about the van. I was more about
Oh,
the,
the
like, the
equipment.
camera, the motorized carriage, and if it had like the sprayer nozzle, I think, the previous model that we discussed at a different meeting last year, maybe?
The sprayer nozzle was for their Vector.
Okay.
That's something different. Unfortunately, I don't have, we don't know how long. As long as they're supported, then it should not be an issue. There would be no reason to think it will not last 5 years. To say it's going to last 20 years, I feel pretty confident it will not last 20 years. But technology changes dramatically also.
I did ask Jason that question. He kind of said the same thing. The company that is providing this equipment is housed in the United States. The company that we bought the previous camera from was in a different country, and it's very hard, like I said, very difficult to receive stuff from. So with it being local in the United States, we're more likely to be able to continue to upgrade it and get more parts as we go along. So, he didn't have a specific answer for the longevity of it, but I think we'll be able to maintain it for past the life of the payment.
Well, let's hope that company is very successful with that model and they make replacement parts for many years. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
No, I understand the complete function of the whole process, so I don't have a problem with any of that.
So we will go ahead and move this item forward. Do we have a management update?
Not tonight.
It is 7:17. I will adjourn Streets and Sidewalks Committee.
I'll start the utility at 7:17. The first item on the agenda is the electric aggregation program with Charlestown and Shalersville. So they are willing to be part of this, and it would be effective starting June 1st. So I don't know if it would be the exact same existing price or if it would be,
I think ours is up in June. Well, Tim's not here tonight. I think that the plan was, well, there was an email from Mr. Content. My only concern is that in order to enter an opt-out aggregation program, the governmental aid entity has to put it on the ballot and get approval by their voters. We did that.
Years ago.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. Now, Mr. Semino told me before the meeting that they had done that, but then he said he thought, because I looked at the last election, it wasn't on their ballot then, and they're currently in NOPAC according to Mr. Content. So they're not in an opt-out aggregation program if the information we have is correct. But Mr. Semino said, well, they might have done it in 2002. And I'm like, I don't know if that counts anymore. So I think we need some clarification on this. It's not just a matter of whether the city allows, and by the way, the more the merrier, right? If we can get more people to join in on our aggregation program, I think that's good news. We have more to bargain with. But I do think we need to clarify whether we can just do this like this, and whether or not they need to do their due diligence and get their voters to approve it. But if your committee wants to move it forward, that's perfectly fine. We just need to find out a little bit more information about if this is the only things we have to do, or they have to do.
I talked to Tim before he went out the door with that. He said that they had gotten permission, that they did vote on it.
Right. That's what Mr. Semino said, but then he said they might have done it like over 20 years ago. And now they no longer have an aggregation program. I think that disqualifies that vote back then. I don't know the rules. I just think we need some.
We'll check it out.
Yeah, that doesn't prevent you from moving it forward if you wanted to, if your committee wants to. I just wanted to point out that, it's a little more complicated than presented here tonight.
well, I believe it's a good idea to go forward with this.
Oh, generally speaking, yes, I do too. I was thinking back to when I was researching some of the stuff for our aggregation plan. And I just remember reading through a lot of those different documents of that process, Rob, that you were talking about, like getting the voter initiative out there. What are the requirements? Like they'd have to send stuff out to their residents and things like that. So I think there's some hoops for them to jump through perhaps, but I'm good to move it forward.
Okay,
We all know how I feel about aggregates, programs. I just think that you can do much better, but if we're stuck with it, I think the more the merrier, because it should lower the overall cost to the residents, correct? To have more people on it,
That's the theory.
That's the whole theory, yeah.
yeah.
okay, so the next item here is the water treatment and wastewater treatment department's capital project support contracts, and that's with Fontis Blue. I know that Fontis Blue has been doing a lot, I'm not sure how many years, with wastewater. And this would be a 3-year agreement. They have had very high quality of service over the years. I have never heard one negative thing with this company over the years. And the superintendents in these departments are very efficient, very high quality minded. So if there's any comments pertaining to this?
Yes, just one.
Okay,
The same gentleman used to work at the University of Akron, and he's the one that we've worked with before for many years. He's providing that support. He is doing this privately now. He owns a business.
So this service that they're going to provide, which appears that it's a software package that helps them follow different situations at the wastewater and the water treatment plant, and then suggest solutions. It's a software package we've had this before. This is not a new
He's
thing this year.
also, he's also on call for us.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And thank you for mentioning that. And since you mentioned that, I know he's done consulting for the company he worked for before he started his own. Okay, the replacement of the, yes,
Is the committee moving this forward?
Yeah, I'm good to move that
That's-
forward.
that's my suggestion. Ms. Lodato?
Yes.
Okay. Next thing is the replacement of the sludge pump at the water treatment plant. And when Ms. Wilson was here just recently, she explained the purpose of this. That this is the original pump from when the water treatment plant was built. I'm recalling the year, I believe that was in '82. So the nice thing is, this pump has lasted far more than its
Expected service life,
predicted,
right?
yes. So it was predicted to last 20 plus, so it's done very good. So I believe this should go forward.
Yeah, as do I. She gave a great presentation.
Yes.
Very comprehensive. I mean, even her tracking sheet's 5 stars.
Okay, the same thing with the replacement of the MCC electrical equipment at the water treatment plant. This is another part of, that is still original. So the reason for replacing this is to eliminate any problems. This is surprisingly, I've seen this, I've seen how it works. So it's surprising that it did last this long without any big problems. So my suggestion is to say yes and give the okay to have this done.
Yeah.
Since it's vital.
Yeah, agreed.
Actually, before we got the other one repaired, I was pretty alarmed that it had gotten to that point. So I feel like that it's better to have this infrastructure in place, just in case something happens,
Yeah, and it's
the one we replaced.
yeah, and she was mentioning that there was a significant safety component for its operation that we can
Arc?
avoid the risk of for arcing.
Yes.
So we can move past Frankenstein switches. But I'm good to move that forward.
Okay, great. So this is fantastic with this.
Okay. I know we're near the end of the agenda here, Paul, but I did have a resident reach out. I wanted to bring up a concern that we could follow up with, too, if you're good for it.
Yes.
So Mr. Bramlett in my ward reached out, and he was referring to a program that Akron does in terms of helping offer like a more discounted insurance, kind of like an aggregation program. You know, there's more buying power, cheaper rates for that kind of stuff. But it's regarding an insurance policies, which they think the state of Ohio defines as like service line warranties. So essentially, Akron's able to offer their residents for their water line, I think it's like $3.47 a month, close to that, and near, I think it's like $5.47 for their sanitary line. So the portion that residents are responsible, so from those hookup points going to the house, it's really cheap compared to the alternatives. I did a little bit of my own research and checked out, like, I believe the state electric monopoly referred to HomeServe for a lot of their customers. And even looking at that for what they're offering on their website, like $9 a month for just your water line, $14 for your sanitary. And if you want some combination of bundled pricing for what they had offered, it's almost $50 a month for that. But Akron was $357 for water, correction, for a month, and $457. And also the press release for that was on like the same platform of the website that we're moving to as well, and it came out really nice and cleanly. So good, nice job on Akron for a good press release. But I feel that we can follow up with this, and I'm not sure what the process would be for getting that started, but we can start to see what's available for companies to even say, hey, for Ravenna residents, nobody wants to be hit with like an $8,000 repair bill, especially given the economic times. We're trying to decrease costs for our residents, improve safety and health. And I think that this is one more way of showing that we can do a good job of helping aggregate and save money for the residents and reduce the risk.
We
And
have
I-
it as a rider on our homeowners insurance to cover things that go from the street to the house. It would be nice to not have that rider on my policy, which I promise you is more than what you just said, Akron. But Akron's also going to have more customers to split that cost.
Yeah, the vendor that they've used, they've had for quite some time, and they seem to specialize in municipalities for that kind of thing. So I think that company specifically may understand risks better. But I think given how much information that we have, like from the engineering department regarding, like when was improvements done for all these things, can probably be very insightful and help them offer a reasonable price for that type of risk. And we can see what other vendors are out there too.
That was probably something Tim would have to reach out to, definitely follow up with that, because I do think that would be a well-received thing for our residents. I would be interested in something like that. At one point, I thought I had something like that with my gas bill, but I don't know if it's still on there or not.
Actually, the gas company, I received a notice pertaining to that. And if you wanted to continue, you had to go toward a separate company to continue that.
Anyways, but yeah, definitely, I think that's a great idea. So thank you to that resident for reaching out to.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So, Mr. Bramlett, wherever you are, thank you. I know I'm no Jimmy Durante, but I'll try.
Okay.
But that's what I had for you there.
Okay, and at this time, I'd like to ask if would be a management update of these articles.
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. At 7:30, Utility Committee will be adjourned.
All right, it looks like I'm up here convening the Planning Committee meeting at 7:30 PM. No softballs for my first meeting here. All right. So the first discussion item is, this is actually a very happy, joyous item. It's to accept $441,279.53 in adult use cannabis tax funds. Now, on Planning Commission, when we dealt with the medical and recreational, I know that one of the bonuses to the city was to get a portion of the excise tax, which is 10% for recreational. I believe at one point it was 20% if somebody used their medical card. I don't know how it goes, but we ended up putting it off. That's why we came to council for the moratorium, is because this, among things, the state kept playing around with what they were going to do, how they were going to do it. And so I'm happy that they at least brought it to a merciful end, of which Ravenna is greatly benefiting from, and making it clear that this is backdated money as well, right? It's not like every payment we get is going to be
Yes.
$440,000.
No, we are going to get it monthly now, but it is from 7/1/2024 till present. So
Well,
they're catching up.
But they didn't go into operation until September.
Yeah, August, I think, was
So
what
it's
they
really
said.
16 months.
Yeah. So if you look, and then we get it on a monthly basis, it'll be like $25,000 a month if we
Right.
stay on the same track. It's a nice
A lot of money.
perk, yeah.
Yes.
It is difficult, though, to predict what it might be. My understanding is that during the first few months of the facility being here in Ravenna, the Streetsboro one was not opened. And since that time, with Streetsboro opening, I don't know if the revenue has continued to stay at the level that it was. Don't know, just saying,
has. It's
just
pretty
questioning whether it'll
close.
be still this amount.
I have a full listing of all of the municipalities, if anybody's interested in looking at what everybody has, so we can kind of keep track on the state site if
I
anybody
would be
ever has it.
interested.
Yeah,
in
to look at it. Streetsboro is much smaller, if anybody drives through Streetsboro, I'm there often, their parking lot's pretty small. I don't know if it helps us that we were open originally with the medicinal portion. so we-
Streetsboro stores operate differently too, whereas the one in Ravenna, they don't have their own goods whereas the Streetsboro one does, they're selling their own product, and that's all
Oh,
that they're
okay.
selling. So Ravenna, because they're open to selling multiple different types of product, they get more people into that one, is my understanding.
Yeah, if you look at these figures, it's kind of surprising.
So
The new law also reduced the THC content in what they can sell now, so there's,
It
you're
could
right.
change-
There's a
it could
number of
change.
factors that could.
change things.
But people are still going to buy it regardless, so I
That's
think
great. We
it's
get the
still
money.
going to make the money
There's a
at
point
this
at which,
point.
last year, we didn't know if we were going to get any of that.
Right.
So-
Well, somebody just asked me the day before it came in.
Carmen, I have a question. So this amount that we're accepting, and maybe Tammy, you might be able to let us know, is this amount going then back into the general fund, or do we have special funds that we're going to use this for?
Well, the funny thing about it is, that's almost exactly what the general fund contributed to the buying of the farm. I couldn't believe it when I looked at it. It's almost a mirror image of that, and it is going into the general fund, so.
So this amount will cover what we spent for Sunbow.
Yeah, we do have guidance from the Auditor of State, and they do suggest that it goes to the general fund unless a specific fund is specified, a special fund. So, and I'll look up to see if there's any further guidance, because that was when it originally started, that was their guidance,
So since it's even, I think, a little more, something, and it is making that part whole again, for further discussion on, portion of that funding, being creative with maybe not, for future funding of it, it might not be too bad to think about, like what Bob was talking about, that piece of property behind the city, if we would be able to get that for a smaller amount, obviously less than what they're asking for, to start land banking some areas that might make sense adjacent to the city for further development for us.
Could we also start, or possibly consider setting some of it aside towards the safety building?
Well, yeah, well, that's what, with the general fund, that money is going back in there, absolutely, the safety building. But two, I think that also a percentage of it maybe to look at continuing our future plans with what we want to do.
I guess what I'm asking is because I know a lot of residents are going to want to know, as we're putting an income tax on the ballot, how much money is the city of Ravenna putting towards these safety buildings? And if we have this revenue coming in, to be able to say that we can put some of this towards that is going to be very promising for residents to see.
And to see the big thing, that the money that was used for Sunbow is now back in the general fund.
Correct. With the
The
thing-
36.6% that we used out of the general fund is now back in.
I think it's only leaves a $5,000 differential or something like that. It was at 446.
Yeah.
And then we got 441. So that's pretty good. I do think that there needs to be some intentional discussion about committing future funds for tying it to something specific, although just also noting that it's going to be a fluctuation of the amount. And also, I think, didn't Michigan they did pass something too, where now it's going to be a lot more expensive? So it might keep customers in Ohio. I know a lot of people go to Michigan because it's a lot cheaper, but now that's about to change, as far as recreational goes. So what do we need to do with this one, other than?
Accept the money and run.
Yeah, really,
Move
take
this
the money,
forward,
is this
please.
a take the money and run item?
Yeah, send our thanks to the state legislature for being decisive. We don't get the privilege of saying that very
After
often.
2 years and 2 months of the passage
So-
of issue 2.
Just as a budgetary structural thing, will there be a separate line in the general fund dedicated to this money coming in?
Typically for revenues, I do have, a
So we
separate
know,
line
so we
for
can
it.
track as time goes
Yes.
by. I think it's premature to decide how we want to spend. I mean, we get a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
revenue through taxes, all forms of taxes and fees, and we don't necessarily dedicate
Yeah.
a stream. But certainly could be, since this is a significant new source of revenue.
Right.
If we wanted to, we could dedicate it to some purpose.
Yeah, but I
But
will-
this is, as you asked, this is just to accept the money. Do we even have to formally
Yeah,
do
we already-
anything to do
We
that?
already have the money, honestly. It came direct deposit, so it's in our account
But
already.
are we required by
I haven't-
ordinance to do
I haven't
something?
recorded it yet. I need the ordinance to pass in order
Okay.
to receipt that, but it
Okay.
is actually already, it was deposited straight from the State of Ohio Department of Taxation.
Okay.
All right, so then moving on, Design Review Commission. So these are changes that the city was looking at, and Rob created a spreadsheet to make this a little bit more user-friendly with what we currently have and the changes that were proposed. Thank you for doing this. I have no talent whatsoever for putting these types of
And I didn't really explain this, but the color coding is, well, the requester column all the way to the left indicates CED because it was the Community and Economic Development Committee that originally passed those sets of proposals forward. And then it was the Design Review Commission, DRC. So that's how we differentiate the two. The boxes that are in green just indicate that both proposals are in agreement. Really don't have to do anything unless council wants to butt in and change something. And then the ones that are under dispute are the ones in gray, the gray area. And underneath, I propose some ideas of how we might want to resolve those. So that's kind of the way it works.
Is that the red box?
Now, the red box is unique because it kind of crosses over in terms of the timeline of when things get started on the first meeting between 143403 and 143404. And I believe it sets up a different discussion that we haven't had, which is because I think the intent for that specific part of the code was not for an application for a certificate, but just for the DRC to consider items under its jurisdiction. Because it kind of creates a different conflict in those two different sections if they're not in sync. If they're an application, I would suggest that that wasn't the intent, because there is a separate set of timelines for an application for a certificate. I hope that makes sense, but.
Well, although there's others to consider, that is on my list of things, and it concerned me the last meeting because what I would like Ravenna to appear as a place that is intent on preserving its historic character in our downtown. But we also have to be business friendly, and we have to be open to economic development. And so when you make businesses wait on, even if it isn't, but what they're viewing as arbitrary, it's good to try to eliminate that. So at the last meeting, one of the changes, and I believe it was the DRC that wanted to change it from 2 to 4, and I did have concerns. I still have concerns about that. I would like to keep that back at the originally suggested 2 weeks.
Well, it is 2 weeks now.
Well, that's, I mean, I'm just saying, what we had last time to work with, it was 2 lines slashed out, 4
Right.
weeks in parentheses, all highlighted. So just to make sure that everybody is on the same page with what that means.
Now, so there's several different items that are in conflict that need to be resolved by council. Do you want to go through this, and you're the chair, however you want to proceed is perfectly fine with me, but do you want to go these in sort of this sequential order, or do you want to pick the most difficult?
Well, I was going to go in order, and by the way, I would like to thank Mr. Selenius. He's out in the audience, and he took 3 hours to 2 hours going through some of this, because I have not ever attended a DRC meeting. Just watched the one online when it had to do with the Pocket Park, and there was a decision to be made on Planning Commission, and I wanted to know what DRC's feedback was. It is at 10 o'clock in the morning, which I can't make those meetings. I could gather, sitting out in the audience, that there was a lot of, like, disagreement when it came to the DRC, so I wanted to make sure that I tried to get some more insight. I also read through the DRC meeting minutes, which that did not provide too much more clarity on much of anything. I mean, it also could be, I don't know, it's just the way that the meetings, and even the meeting minutes for that are kept in different formats. So the first thing is, that I'd like to talk about is, I think we talked about the specialists, and it's brought up about the residency requirement. I know I got, honestly, I mean, I can see the need, and I know it's Ohio best practice when I looked it up, to have a specialist, to have somebody with the knowledge. Not so sure that I would be sold on that being a voting member. To have the specialist be a voting, I see that person as sort of an advisor, an advisory role. That would be a recommendation. I'm definitely supportive of the residency requirement. Thoughts on that?
Is the specialist currently a voting member?
Yes.
Yes.
As long as they live in the county.
Okay.
Yes,
They have to meet
live
that
in Portage
qualification.
County.
Right.
And it is hard to find somebody who is both. So that does make sense, where it could be a specialist as far as, what you mentioned, so.
Well, and the specialist definition is very broad. I mean, it could be somebody who's even interested in archaeology. So there's,
So
The
you're,
last clause is open-ended in what.
right,
it
about
is.
what would constitute a specialist.
Something related field,
Correct.
words like that, yeah.
so you're recommending saying that they would not, regardless of, they wouldn't have to meet the residency requirement, oh, it's been a long night, but they would also not be a voting member.
Right.
Okay.
Well, just so we're clear about what the two different proposals are, the CED proposal, one makes a requirement of any member to either live or own property in the city, period, even if you're a specialist. It also says that if the mayor who appoints these members can't find two specialists, there may not be any specialists. So CED says not a requirement that there be a specialist, not that they are excluded, but everyone has to be a resident or own property. Now, the DRC took a different approach, and they believe, they kind of compromised in a sense by saying, there has to be at least one of the specialists doesn't have to be a resident. That's basically what it says. So I think the premise there is, well, it may be hard to find a specialist who's also a resident or owns property.
See, honestly, I wanted to eliminate the whole specialist part
Well,
completely.
that may be your preference then to be in the CED proposal, because although it mentions having a specialist, it doesn't
It doesn't
require it.
require it.
The other one does require it.
So if we took out, well, I guess I wouldn't be taking it out since it's not required.
So could you go through possibly the changes, like in order that you want to keep it flowing so that we can, and then maybe talk about it after? Because we're going to be all over the place here if we don't stay consistent, I think, with the changes that you guys have made that you're presenting to us.
Okay. And I had all of this stuff set up. I had all of my notes. And I don't know what folder I put them into. That's what I'm looking at.
And then we'll just let you go through with what you need to go through without us, just to try to get everything out so that I think it might flow better.
Well, the first thing would be to make the resident, to make it a non-voting member. The specialist a non-voting member.
Well, that's not in either proposal.
Okay.
So,
All right. I don't need to. I mean, it depends. What's your feedback?
well, I think the first decision should be, should there be a residency requirement? That's, I
Right.
think, the first thing.
Residency is in Portage County, residency is in
city-
City of Ravenna.
The CED says you have to be a resident of the city or own property in
I
the
would
city.
agree with that. I do think that we need to have a residency requirement be in Ravenna, not Portage County, just Portage County as a whole.
And what is the current requirement?
That they be
in Portage.
a county.
County, okay.
So this would change it to narrow it to the city. Or own property or reside.
Right, and by the way, Mr. Salinas, if we're not representing that proposal, well, please pipe in, but I'm pretty sure that's what yours says, right?
The original one said, yes, resident of Ravenna or owns property in Ravenna.
For all members.
The Design Review Commission was okay with getting rid of the owns property and just make it a resident of Ravenna. So I would hope we could agree on that. That's fine with me.
Yeah, I don't think that's what their proposal says, though. But I think that's splitting hairs. I think the only difference is they're willing to accept one specialist who is not a city resident. That was what,
All the others would be city residents.
Right.
And there's nothing
Right.
in there about owning property. It just says a city resident. Okay? I'm willing to go either way, if you're asking my preference.
But you're making it sound like
Let's
the
just
DR
make it a city
the
resident.
DRC is even more strict. They don't even want you to own property. I'm not sure that's what it says, though. So I think, like I said, the first decision, as far as moving a single proposal forward, would be if there's consensus on a residency requirement.
So my proposal then would be to do away with the Portage County and replace it with City of Ravenna.
So you're saying your proposal would be the live and own property, or just live?
Just live.
It's gonna be so hard to find people to do this. That's my only fear. It is hard, it is so difficult to get people to step up for committees and commissions that aren't on 90 different committees and commissions. If we limit it too much, my fear is that we're not gonna have people, good qualified people or passionate people that wanna do this.
Well, Planning Commission, you have to live in the city. You can't have anybody on Planning Commission.
And that, well, not just planning, any board or
Yeah.
commission or
They're all like
committee
that.
Yeah.
where the mayor appoints somebody, this is the only one that I could find that didn't have a residency
I guess I'm
requirement.
saying that I'm okay with the owning property in the city, for me.
Well, that would be in line with
Yeah.
the CED
I'm not
proposal.
saying, I'm not saying, I feel like there has to be some type of restriction, but not,
Yeah, I think you have to definitely be a Ravenna resident. And my concern is, I did like Carmen's idea as far as if you had a specialist, being an advisory. So I'm more in the lines with Carmen.
Because that's what they're there for.
And I think that would even encourage that individual to speak more freely from their professional pulpit, to say, like, they don't have to vote on things. They can just give the most objective information, and they're not accountable for the decision, but they can provide the most objective information because they don't have to have a stake in the game, so to speak. They're just there to provide that objectivity for the best path forward.
To be like an advisory member on the board, where they can give information if they want to be involved and give feedback, but they're just not a voting member.
And I don't think there's any prohibition from the Design Review Commission from seeking outside information for specialty information or anything like that. So if they did reach outward, there might not be an obligation to return a communication, but they could still reach out to different types of experts for different niche needs.
so are we saying then that we have right now, we require 2 specialists? Are we
Well, we don't require it. We just allow for it,
Okay, so are we saying then we would only allow for 1,
right?
and they would be a non-voting person?
Right.
Okay.
As we discuss this now in the committee, do members that are not on this subcommittee or on the committee have full voice during this discussion, or is it just the members of the committee who are discussing it?
It's up to the chair.
I would feel like, given the fact that I'm so new to this, I would appreciate other people illuminating some of this. And I would like to say that we also have the guidelines that the city's contribution was $12,000, but it was a $30,000 total cost, right, to develop those guidelines.
That's correct.
So we do have that system of guidance there, where I think in the absence of those, maybe it would have been a better idea to have more professional specialists. But I do think that the investment that the city made in those guidelines should reduce that need.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting approach. The only thing I would suggest is a specialist would actually know what the guidelines say. And I'm not so sure they're written for the layperson. But
I think they are. They even have pictures.
that does help.
I would just put in that I believe the possible resolution listed would be appropriate, and it would be residents or own property, and allow the one specialist to be a resident of the county.
That would be the DRC proposal.
Yes.
Here's, I guess, just before we go any further with this, I don't want this sitting in my committee anything beyond today. I would really like to move this forward, because I also know that whatever gets moved, now I'm a little confused on this, right? Because it was in council and it was moved back to committee. So where would we'd be moving this on from tonight? Would it go
Well, it's
back
back-
into second, was it on?
It would go to committee
It
of the
depends on
whole.
what the
Committee
committee
of the
wants to
whole.
do. If the committee
Okay.
wants to move it after tonight
Okay,
forward with a specific set of proposals, and again, it could reach committee of the whole, and it could be changed there. I mean, there's no perfect system, and this is
because we
difficult.
can amend things at any time, right?
Yeah, that's true, too.
I mean, in the bulk, I'd like to just get this, because even from sitting out there and not being directly involved, I got the sense that there's a lot of exasperation that this seems to be, there's been a lot of kicking the can down the road, but I do think that there are important things to discuss. So as far as the committee goes, I do think that it has to be that it's to Ravenna, not just even a member that's in the county, but members must live in the city or own property in the city of Ravenna.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with moving that forward.
Okay, so we can move that forward.
And again, like Rob said, if we could get to committee of the whole and someone else could make that suggestion.
Okay, all right, so that kind of dealt with some of these issues.
Now, the specialist part hasn't been resolved yet, because I'm not exactly sure. So there's a residency requirement for all members that they be
Yes.
residents or own property for all
Yes.
members. Okay.
Yes.
What's the specialist, I'm a little fuzzy on what the special, because I'm trying to document this to come up with a
Well, I
one
guess
proposal.
I'm okay with the specialist being a voting member as long as they live in the city or own property in the city.
So what about the idea that there has to be two, or the current one says there has to be two.
Right.
All right. I
It says
believe
that
that the DRC still says there has to be two, but one of them can be outside the county. So what do we want to do with the specialist part?
So when you're saying outside the county, they don't own a
outside the
business,
city.
At that city?
but they own a business.
Right.
We've said, so we have stated over and over now,
We want it to be in the city.
yes, so there should be no more discussion on that
No,
part.
no, I know, but
Right. But
I'm
he's
just
talking about
telling you what the
number of
DRC says.
Okay.
Right now, we have two specialists.
My preference would be to move it to 0. I mean, but,
Well, then maybe the simple thing to do would be adopt the CED that says there's a specialist category, but it's not a
Right.
requirement.
right, that's, to me, would be the most
So
fitting.
then I think that the question needs to be, for your committee, do you want to not require any specialists?
I would not require any specialists, given that we
Right.
have the guidelines.
But you have two other people on the committee.
Okay.
A lot right now, a lot of pressure. I mean,
This is getting a lot. I mean, we're going back and forth, and it's like with all these in and out, I'm like trying to figure out what base I'm on. So, okay, that's why I was trying to stay consistent with the topic and going. All right, so you are on. Well, I am. I'm trying to stay consistent with which change we're going on. So,
Right now, we're on 1434.03 C3.
okay,
The third gray box down.
Yeah, on the chart. The requires 2 specialists who must live in the county, that's the current. The change would be
okay.
if specialists can be found, membership from other categories can be used instead. So it eliminates the requirement that there be 2 specialists,
Any specialist.
right? Yes, you're right.
I'm okay with that.
So,
Because we do have the guidelines, and if needed, we can have somebody come in.
and we want to remove the part that says county resident and have it be Ravenna. Ravenna resident or owns property in Ravenna.
In Ravenna, in Ravenna. Property owner in Ravenna or resident in Ravenna is my
Okay,
comment.
Okay, so then we can move on, but assuming the committee is good with that, you've adopted wholesale the CED proposal and discarded any change from the Design Review Commission in this particular category.
that would appear to
Okay,
be the
all right.
case.
well, and I just, because I haven't spoke on this quite yet, I don't think it's a terrible idea, because if members are appointed and they're residing in the districts, they're going to be invested, they're going to want to share good information. No one wants to sit on this committee just for fun, like.
Right.
They want to do it because they're there and they want to represent their city, they want to represent their home. So, I mean, they're kind of specialists within their own right, right? If they own, yes. I'm not saying, I'm not using the word, okay, so they are,
Not at all.
they are invested.
Well, they're invested,
Right.
but they're not specialists.
Well, you don't know that, they
necessarily.
still could be. They could still have a background and be sitting there, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's like their passion helps
Correct.
show their credentials in there.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I think if I was going to volunteer my time for something and wasn't really that much caring what it was, this would be the last committee I would sign up for. Because there is so much technicality.
Okay, but I mean, it sounds like and I'm just trying to move things along.
Right.
Sounds like your committee has finished that box
We have,
Yes,
by adopting the CED
Move it along.
proposal.
yes.
Okay.
I have
Sorry.
all check
Thank you.
marks there. Okay, so then we move on to 1434.03, Section F. So the current says after receiving a request, the DRC must meet within 2 weeks to discuss the issue. DRC wanted to move it to 4. That is even something I said at the last meeting that I would like to see that remain at 2.
I agree.
Yeah. Now, so this is let me just explain why it's in red. This is in '03.
Right.
The application process is in '04. In '04, it has a specific timeline. I think, and that's why I created that separate change document that I sent out.
Right.
Because it's my opinion that that was meant for just having if someone wanted to present something that wasn't a permit or certificate application, that would be the timeline. Because it does have other things like they want it 10 days, or was it 10 days or 7 days before the meeting and all. So to me, it was like notification to the DRC that someone wants to talk to them about some matter. But it doesn't say anything about an application. Then we get to '04 and it talks specifically about the application and the process. So it would be my opinion to just wholesale change that to indicate that difference.
To say that if it's an applicant, that it's the 2 weeks.
Now, where's my change? What did I do?
I know.
My computer's all messed
DRC to meet,
Yeah, I sent the change,
Yeah.
all right?
This one, yes.
Yeah, okay. So you can see what it says there. And that was my suggestion, just to simplify things and to differentiate what that part of the code is intended to do and what the application part wanted to do. And I guess the question is, if you all have those changes in front of you, what are your thoughts about that?
This one. Within 4
Okay,
weeks
found it.
of the receipt of a request for an individual. So it's just from the request.
And I did go with partly with what the Design Review Commission, so basically, not an application. Okay, so we're
Just
not
the
talking about a
request.
business waiting for something to happen. But within 4 weeks, that would put it like between the time period when they have their meetings. So they get a convenience to the DRC, if someone wanted to talk to them about something, as long as it was within, what did I say, 7 days? 7 days, and that was the DRC's suggestion, then they could have it at that meeting, the regularly scheduled meeting.
I actually like this suggestion.
I do too.
I
Okay.
think that this clarifies the difference and also creates a timeline that's business-friendly.
Because we can't expect members of this committee to be prepped
No,
every 2 weeks that they might or might not have
no.
something. Yeah.
No, I agree.
No, I think it's a great idea.
Okay, so then we could dispense with that and we
Yeah.
can use this change and move on.
Do you mind if I give this out to the?
Yeah.
Would you like to take a look at this? What we're talking about?
Yeah, I don't think it impacts anything that were proposed from the other committee, because it's,
Who wrote this?
Derived of it.
Rob,
I did. And I think the important consideration is it's not anything other than an application for a certificate,
Right.
that makes sense.
right? Like when I went to the Design Review Commission to present the proposal, and I was told, well, you need to do that 10 days in advance. And this,
I
so,
looked at your suggestion way down at the bottom, which was the first time within 4 weeks, which means the normal meeting.
yeah, we haven't, that's the certificate part, we haven't gotten there yet.
Right, but I get, in my opinion, whatever this was probably could have waited also unless the mayor thought it was important enough to call a meeting.
There's
You
a-
want to give the applicant
No,
to discuss,
no, 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 no. Yeah, but not anything other than a certificate.
you want to give that person the right to request a meeting in 2 weeks?
No.
No.
4
That
weeks.
one's 4.
4 weeks.
Okay, that's all right with me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's 4.
I think we're also gonna, should agree that the first meeting is the normal monthly meeting, which we're calling 4 weeks, for an application as well.
Well, we'll have to.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet.
So, well, this will make it the same for both. That the first
Well,
time you
that's-
consider a matter or an application, I recommend would be the normal meeting.
All right, well,
I think the application for the need for a certificate carries more weight
right.
because there usually are work orders that business owners are waiting on.
So is the committee okay with that, with F?
Yes, I'm okay
Yes.
with that.
Okay. The only other thing with 03, and I apologize if I'm inserting myself here, but I'm trying to move things along, is that the DRC did suggest the change that I don't think anybody cares about, which is that currently they're supposed to provide a detailed annual report, and
Yeah.
this just says their minutes will serve as that function. And I assume the committee's okay with that.
Yeah.
All right, then.
All right.
Then we can move on to 04.
So we did, so I'm sorry, to go back to 1434.03J, then we're going with the recommendation to use the meeting minutes.
Yeah.
And not a detailed annual
If that's what the
report.
committee
That
desires.
seems very reasonable and logical to me. Okay, so 1434.04, we kind of discussed that one in tangent with the previous section.
Well, the first part is in green, so we don't necessarily have to
No,
discuss it.
not
because
that
they-
part, I mean like the.
Right,
the,
exactly. Yes.
The timeline issue, we kind of resolved that one.
So,
Well, only to the extent of a non-application, right?
Right, but as
Okay.
far as an applicant goes, I would like to move the timeline to 2 weeks and not have it at 4.
And let me just explain the difference here. So the current is 2 weeks, right? The CED wanted to maintain that, and then for a second meeting, and only limited to 2 meetings, it would be another 2 weeks. Or because if they didn't meet for some reason, if 30 days passed, that would be enough time where the applicant could appeal to city council. So in other words, if there was only 1 meeting, but they didn't schedule a second meeting and 30 days passed from the application point, they could appeal. And that was what Mr. Seleni is proposing.
Well, let me get slightly ahead of you. We're saying the second meeting would be within 2 weeks if the applicant requested.
Right,
We're not going to make it automatic.
Oh, yeah, well, true.
by the applicant.
Yeah.
If requested.
Yeah. And by the way, that's also the current code, that the DRC meet within a 2-week intervals if the applicant
It
desires.
doesn't say if requested, though. We want to add the words if it's
If
requested.
we want to
Okay.
add the language if applicant
All right,
requests.
we don't want to make it automatic like it is now. Maybe the applicant wouldn't be ready in 2 weeks for a second meeting. And Design Review Commission didn't want the 30 days.
Right.
And it occurred to me that an applicant could game the system by not showing up for a second meeting, so I was willing to give up the 30 days as long as we keep it at 2 meetings.
Yeah, and so the Design Review Commission came back with wanting it to change from 2 weeks for the initial meeting to 4 weeks. And then they did away with the 2-week interval part, which meant there was no time limit for a second meeting. They could hold it 5 months later, according to the code. And I think that may just have been a problem that they didn't recognize when they wrote that.
That's what I mean by we need to make this more business friendly.
Well, and again, I don't know if they intended that. I just think when they removed that section about the 2 weeks, they didn't realize they presented no time limit.
Well, I
Now-
could see how this all gets very confusing.
Yeah,
When
well,
we're done with this,
sure.
can we just make one flow chart with color coding?
Well, that's kind of what I tried to do in a
Yeah.
sense. That's not a flow chart for sure, but,
I liked how you even picked gray for gray area.
yeah.
So, but the way that we're doing this, would design review, I know that sometimes they don't meet. Would they be required to meet then every month?
If it was,
No, they're not
they're
required to
not.
meif every month.
they're not
Only
required to
if
meet,
there's something
Only if there's something, but I'm saying, would this change that to that? So for more consistency in flow and,
It would only change if it was by the applicant's request.
okay.
It would be the 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Otherwise, it would just be the 4 weeks.
okay.
So we want to
No.
add language that says 2 weeks at applicant's request.
Okay, but what I put in as a possible compromise, and you may not agree with
It's the
this,
same thing.
would have been to accept the DRC's 4 weeks for the first meeting, but retain the 2 weeks, so now instead of 30 days, we have 6 weeks. And the only reason I said that is because I don't know, I mean, they wanted more time for that first meeting. And I think that potentially creates 2 opportunities. 1, more time for them to review it, and 2, more time to get it right the first time. So I would think it would alleviate the need for second meetings. And I already talked to Bob. There's nothing in the code that says the Design Review Commission, once they get an application, before they even meet with an applicant, communicate some concerns. So that when they come to the first meeting, they can be prepared to adjust or whatever. But again, I'm just throwing that out there because I think it's a compromise between the two. Obviously, you think the expediency is more important.
I do.
But I do want to just give some deference to the Design Review Commission because they're doing the actual work. And if they're proposing a longer period of time, then I think it's worthy of consideration. But
Well, it
committee,
most
it's up to the
likely
committee.
will be in most cases. It's only by the applicant's request that it would be 2. So that would mean that if the applicant is ready to roll and has a project and needs that timeline, it's available to them.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be. If they don't have their ducks in a row, they might be fine with just the monthly meeting.
Well, how does that work by request? I'm not sure I understand that
The applicant
part.
would be asking for, instead of meeting in 4 weeks, to meet in 2 weeks.
And they'd have to have a quorum to meet with them in 2 weeks. Or the mayor would be the one to approve or not approve it.
So you want it written such that that the design review commission is required to meet within 4 weeks.
Right.
Unless the applicant asks to meet sooner?
By the applicant request, it would be 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, okay, I was just
Right,
saying it briefly. Is that what you're saying?
right.
What about the second meeting? Or do we keep the 2-week interval?
I just think the 2-week intervals, because any business owner making that request is going to need that timeline.
And there are backups in place as stated, so
Right.
it's not that hard to accommodate.
So the way it would be written is, the DRC is required to meet within 4 weeks unless the applicant requests they meet within 2 weeks.
Right,
And would that pertain not just to the first meeting, that would pertain?
right. But
I'm
there's a
sorry. Well,
maximum
she's
too.
running the meeting.
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, if you just look at 1434, .04 C1,
Yeah.
all right? That's the current language. The last sentence says, currently, the commission shall meet at no longer than 2-week intervals.
So
We're
we would
just going to simply add the words, if requested by the applicant. It's only been done once in 9 years.
So the chances are slim, but it's
Right.
there if needed.
Otherwise, we don't want to force them to have 2-week interval meetings. The applicant may not be ready,
No,
Well, if the applicant's not ready, it's a waste of everyone's time.
all right?
right.
Right.
So it would be just by, if the applicant felt like if they were on some, well, as you said, once in 9 years. I mean, we're not looking at something that is normal. It's an outlier. But at least we have it there. I mean,
Okay.
I hope so. Listen, I hope so much business comes to the historic district and so many people want to start business down there that people need to be coming every 2 weeks because it's a windfall for the city. That would be optimal.
So for 143404B4, you want the first meeting again to be within 4 weeks unless requested
Yes.
by will be 2 weeks.
Yes.
And then 143404C1
Add
would be the same, except at the end we put,
by applicant request.
so the applicant's going to have to request the meeting, otherwise,
Right.
well, what happens if they don't?
Well, then they have to wait, it's the 4 weeks.
No, there is no 4 weeks after the first meeting.
Okay, so I see what you're saying. That
Well,
they
that's
could then,
normal, that's what we've always been doing,
yeah.
monthly meetings.
Yeah, well, that's not in the code. I mean, we have to codify this to make sure it matches the practice, or we need to make the practice match the code. But,
Well, it's always been a case, if it was on the agenda, you had the monthly meeting.
well, if it was within 2 weeks, that would be fine. But I guess, what's wrong with saying, first meetings are within 4 weeks unless requested by the applicant, but then retaining the current wording of C1, which is, all other meetings occur within 2 weeks? I mean, I thought the whole purpose was to shorten the time period.
Right.
To be
I see
more,
what you're saying. So it's just the initial meeting then, that would be by applicant request.
for 2 weeks.
But then there's, okay, and that solves that issue. All right.
My head hurts right now.
I think that works for me. I don't know how about other people feel.
Certainly, we can, this is a draft of everything, and if we process stuff afterwards.
And by the way, so then we're doing away with the 30-day part.
Right,
Okay.
right. All right, but then we jumped forward. Okay, So that takes care of that discussion. Because that removes then the language.
Yeah, both proposals did agree to reduce the total number of meetings from 3 to 2.
Right.
So I don't know that there's anything else to discuss here. I will try to draft what we've talked
On the 3 to 2 or the other things listed? Are you saying that's just the 3 to 2?
Yeah.
But there's other issues still to discuss?
I don't know that there are.
I don't know if we've looked at 143404B4. There's a difference between Community and Economic Development and the Design Review Committee on applications and how that affects things, and whether a site visit is required.
Oh, you're right, I missed that. That's the only difference. They both agree, because one of the problems was, and I think I mentioned this before, that there could be an infinite delay loop at the beginning if every time the DRC met, they told the applicant there wasn't sufficient information.
Right.
So we modified it to make sure what the application needed to have, and if it had it, it was complete, the clock starts, there's no insufficient,
Correct.
delay. But you're correct, the DRC wanted to eliminate the site visit. And I was a little bit surprised about that, but I guess it's up to council, how important is a site visit?
Mr. Selenius, I'd like your insight on this, or Mr. Sodol, if you would like to contribute that, because I will say, as somebody on Planning Commission, I went to every one of those, because I can't visualize looking at a two-dimensional picture. Like, I can't get an idea for what they're really asking. Sometimes you do have to look at it, because a lot of times when you get plans, they just show that building. So a site visit allows you to look at it, how it fits into the context of the structures around it. That's my feeling. But I do understand how that would delay things, but, I mean, nobody told me I had to do that on planning. I just felt like that was,
It's not a requirement for the planning commission to make site visits.
no, it's not required. I just like doing it because then I felt like I kind of knew more what I was talking about.
I'm sorry, is the site visit required whenever they did not have, when they had insufficient information? But now that we have a definition of what a complete application is that why they're saying that they do no longer need a site visit?
I don't know why.
I'm just trying to offer a possible explanation why they didn't, because they have locked down completely what a complete application is, and so.
I think, to be honest with you, if I had to guess, they eliminated the site visit because they weren't doing them.
Okay.
They almost never do it, but they can if they want to.
Yeah, this requires it, though, and they took it
Well,
out.
Yeah, this says you must do it before you issue a certificate of approval. That's current law, but it
Right.
isn't done.
So I guess it's up to the council, this committee, to decide if they wants to remove the site visit or keep it in there.
I think we should keep it in there.
I think that
I mean, it's kind of.
you need to keep the
I'm
site.
agreeable with that,
You
but
need to keep the site visit.
simply because it's never been done and
Well, I mean, that's an interesting dilemma.
it hasn't,
The oversight part.
it hasn't held things up,
Right.
for lack of a site review.
I would be upset if I was a business owner and my application there was something wrong, or it was delayed or deemed insufficient, only to find out that nobody even went out and looked at it. I would, the way that
Yeah.
it's currently
The
written,
only
I
thing
would feel.
you could say is, if it's a sign, do you really need a site visit for a sign?
Is there a
You could
potential?
drive by,
Let
right?
me tell you about these meeting minutes, and you absolutely need to go out there and take a look at it.
But I think the committee already decided to keep it
Yes.
in there.
Okay, all right, moving on.
I think that's-
or is that at the end of the,
Yeah, the only other thing was
site visit required?
143499, which
We already
just
talked
is
about.
making sure that fines aren't duplicated. an agreement.
Back up to something we
Sure.
talked about.
Yeah.
If you look at 1434.04 B5, should be on your first page of 1434.04. That's B5.
B5.
I don't see a 5.
If you read the first sentence.
I don't see it.
You do?
To me, it says,
Hold on just a second, Larry, we're trying to find what we're,
So it says, if the commission determines that the proposed alteration will have no adverse effect on the purposes of this chapter, then a certificate of approval shall be issued. The approval shall be forwarded to the building department with copies to the applicant. I think this might have to do with an issue of it's not currently being done.
well, sentence 2 is not being done. There's no copies sent to the building department, but I want to talk about sentence 1. It's clear to me the intent of that is that if you determine that the proposed alteration will have no adverse effect on the purposes of this chapter, then it should be approved at that meeting. And we want to, I'm not saying what you were worried about issuing a certificate of approval at that meeting, no. We want to approve it.
But that's what they do now.
What?
That's what they do now.
That's what they're supposed to do now.
Well, that,
All
no.
those delays I have talked to you about are where they violated that principle.
Well, I mean, that's a judgment call. I mean, if they determined that, if the commission determines, is what it says, that the proposed alteration will have no adverse effect, then they approve the certificate. Why would they not approve the
But it
certificate?
doesn't say when they must approve it. We wanted to add simple language that said, I'll read the whole sentence.
Well, it says the certificate of approval shall be issued.
Doesn't say when.
Well,
But I want to just back up to the word approved.
yeah.
If the commission determines that the proposed alteration will have no adverse effect on the purpose of this chapter, then the proposed alteration shall be approved at the first meeting at which it is considered.
But again, I don't know what the purpose of saying that is. That's what they would, if it's the first meeting and they determine that there's no
They're not
adverse
doing
effect, then
that.
they approve, right?
They are not doing that. That's when
What are they doing?
That's when the expert comes up with a suggestion for improvement,
Well, then they haven't determined
and
that,
they withhold the approval. Well, it's not exactly a suggestion if you withhold somebody's building permit and try to force them to take it. These changes were within the guidelines and would cause no harm.
you're assuming, and I know we had this conversation via email, you're assuming there's a subjective measure that says this. It's not, or this objective measure that proves this. No, it says it right there, determined by the commission.
I agree.
Okay, so
I
it's a
agree. But a
subjective call by the
suggestion-
commission.
A suggestion for improvement does not say that it does not, or let's say a suggestion for improvement doesn't say that it has an adverse effect on the purposes of the chapter. Some of those suggestions they came up were so trivial, they forgot about them by the next meeting.
Well, I mean,
That's why I would like to clarify that statement. It's just common sense to make it clear to them that if it will have no adverse effect, it's within the guidelines, it should be approved at the first meeting at which it is considered.
well,
We're talking about.
I feel like we're going in circles.
I guess my question is if they're still making suggestions, then they have not determined that it will have no adverse effect.
exactly.
You can have two different outcomes and neither one has an adverse effect.
I'm just trying to look at why they may be following the course that they are following.
Well, I think number one, they've never looked at this sentence, and I think the intent of the writers was that they should approve it at that meeting if it will have no adverse effect. That's obvious to me, that the intent was it should be improved as soon as possible if it will have no adverse effect. So I'd simply like to clarify that with very simple language.
I'd also like to say, though, is if we're proposing a change here that has not been, we've given the Design Review Committee an opportunity to look at, we shouldn't unilaterally go forward with the suggestion. Just, we've let them look at all of the other suggestions. We might need to hear their response to that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, as a simple process, that's going to delay things, because I don't think it's fair to introduce new, I mean, the council wants to introduce stuff, it's within its rights completely. But this meeting was designed to compare the two that were given a lot of thought, the CED one much more than the DRCs. To throw something else in without getting a DRC response would be unfair. But I would suggest, and this is my personal opinion, I don't think that change makes any difference whatsoever. I'm adding the word at that meeting, that's what they would do. And if they didn't, why would putting in those words at that meeting make any difference? If they decided there needed to be further changes.
As a member of this committee, I want to focus on what's in front of us.
What we
I
have.
appreciate your feedback. There's a lot, and we've had a lot of different conversation, so I just want to focus on what we have
Because we
for
can
now.
send this forward and still discuss this, or we can amend at a
yeah.
later time, just the one item. I don't want to hold it up over the one item, but I think there is some disparity over what's in the rules and what's
Yeah.
done in practice, correct?
Yes.
That there's frustration. I mean, we could be subjective all day long about what constitutes something being adverse.
Correct.
If I want to open a business and somebody has a suggestion that I tilt something or make something an inch bigger, then, but it's not in the guidelines, I'm getting frustrated about where I stand.
I mean, I think where part of that issue could be is like the when they make that decision that it doesn't impact the structure or facade, I think that's the decision-making point, is like, that's like if you're making a flow chart, that's the decision thing, but how long does that decision, can they make that decision with what's presented?
Well, some
And
people
do
have
they
been
just
delayed
sit
for
on the
months.
decision because they don't make
Yeah.
the decision, is
Some
what I'm
people have been
wondering.
delayed for months.
And
over-
again,
Over suggestions.
I don't disagree that there's an issue with that. I really would like us to focus on what's in front of us. And then there are some other things that we certainly can discuss.
I will consider it a complete win if we can move this forward with just that one item to kind of circle back to. I will consider that a complete win.
That's fine.
And did Amy have to leave?
She did have
She had
to
to leave, so
step
it's
away.
just us.
Okay.
So as long as we don't disagree.
Well, I'm technically on the committee too. I don't usually vote unless it's necessary, but I would forward every suggestion made so far.
Okay, all right.
So I
Settle
think,
on that? Can
I
I
think
check
we're
this off?
good.
Can I check this off the list?
Check it off.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Mr. Selenius,
Yes,
for
thank you.
coming in and offering your expertise.
Mr. Lodato, if possible, I also wanted to thank President and Council Karas for putting that chart together to compare the three different versions. In attempting to do that, that was a very difficult thing to go through, and I was getting lost in the middle. We had so many different things to look at. That chart helped quite a bit to facilitate this discussion and move this forward. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so moving on, thank you, everybody, for hanging in there with that discussion. All right, so agreement with Zipca to perform the gap conversion services. This is, from what my understanding is that there's the company that previously did this is no longer interested.
They are
in
getting out of the
continuing
gap
it.
conversion business, so they are no
Okay.
longer doing them.
So we needed to find another firm that is going to do our gap conversion services, which is required for auditing purposes. So if you want to take it from there.
Yes, so Charles E. Harris, the previous company we worked with, is no longer doing gap conversions. So that leaves us without one. We need this in order to get our financial statements prepared as soon as possible. We're already talking to Zupka because we have to get this moving along in order to get our audit done by May 30th is the deadline to get it filed with the state. So we sent out RFQs, got some bids back. Several didn't reply. We got 3 no bids due to staffing issues. A lot of people are already scheduled out. Kind of a problem with that everybody has finding staff to do things. So the 2 bids we got, one of them was more than double Zupka's. So this is a company that they're just in Seven Hills, they're local. We got good recommendations. They have used them in Kent, so Brian Huff has worked with them, which was helpful to know somebody that has worked with them. I met Sarah, the partner, recently, so they seem to be a good fit, and it's a good price. So I'd like the authorization to move forward.
I didn't get a chance to look at the price. What was the price for this?
The total price for 3 years is $47,430. So
Okay.
first year's $17,000. The first year's usually a little bit higher because it's a ramp-up year. Then $15,345 second year, and $14,000.
And how does that compare with the company we used on the previous 3 years?
Previously, the 3 years was $36,230. Again, that company had been around for a long time. They're getting out of it. I think their prices were pretty low.
Pretty
They
low.
were, yeah.
Okay.
We've used them for 4 years now.
And CUNY was really high. That,
We kind of knew they would be. We worked with CUNY years ago, but we did a lot of our GAP paperwork here previous to when I was here. We're kind of hoping eventually we can get to that again if we can prepare some of our own work papers. It does save us money on the GAP conversion. So, future goals.
I'm okay with moving that forward.
And just to know, we will put this on the special
Right.
along with the,
We could.
because it has a 30, you said it has to be passed by the 30th.
But we'd just like to pass it as soon as possible so we can get working with
Okay,
them.
got you.
That's, yeah.
Hit those deadlines. So next meeting, the 20th?
20th, we'll have the committee of the whole meeting. It'll be on that agenda also, but it will be on the special since it's authorized by the committee
Okay.
to put on the agenda.
Correct.
All right, thank you. All right, so moving forward, cannabis dispensary moratorium. I don't even know what to say about this, except it's hard to kind of argue against keeping a moratorium when we just received a gigantic payment from them. Although I do think that moratoriums can be useful. And I kind of don't like the idea of just having one dispensary in town because they have no competition, but I don't know what anybody else's thoughts are on that.
Could you review for us historically what this moratorium is and what its effect?
Yes.
And do we recall why we put it into place?
Yes, it's because when we were on planning, we were tasked with looking into where these types of things would go, like how many were cities looking at putting them? Were they doing them like one per ward or so many per population? So what we were finding on planning when we tried to research this is that every city was doing a moratorium because the state was changing the laws constantly. So we didn't want to do a bunch of work to make recommendations to council, and then the state come down and say, well, this is how many you can have anyway, or this is where you're going to be able to put it. So we recommended a moratorium at that time, which I believe is expired since, correct?
Like last May.
Okay.
It
was a
just
1
for
year.
the downtown business district though, right?
No, the moratorium
The
was
moratorium
for
was-
all of the city. It just prevented the current one from moving downtown.
Right,
Not that they had any plans to, but we were concerned about parking.
Yeah,
Right.
they're good where they're at.
right. So it just, that's all it did, and it was for 1 year. So
So,
that
Yeah.
expired a long time ago. So that was the history behind it. It was because they were changing, every time we would have a meeting for planning, all of the things would change. And
Well-
so it was frustrating.
Well, okay, just to be clear, it wasn't that the state was changing things, they were considering changing things.
Right,
The law that passed because the voters voted for it was in place up until just recently when the governor signed a new bill. And the moratorium was because of the uncertainty,
Right.
we didn't know what to write. Now, we do have a couple of additions to our code that I drafted. They're just replicas of the medical marijuana with some minor changes. And I think there still needs to be some decision-making. For example, when we had the moratorium, we didn't know, like, if we were gonna get any tax money.
Right.
That could have went away. That might have been decided, well, we don't need any more dispensaries. If we're not getting any tax money, it's a drain on our resources. But now that we know we are getting tax money,
And
maybe
there
it's
was a
okay.
version at the time when this came through planning to eliminate cities being able to get
Correct.
anything.
Yeah.
Right.
So that.
There were
that-
several.
that was-
There were
right.
several proposals that
So-
would do that.
It's, I think now that they're done, however it's gonna go, now we know where we stand. I would kind of like to put this off, though, if that's okay with you, because I know that Amy has, I want to make sure that she's able to have a voice in this discussion.
So you don't want to move this forward?
You can leave it
No,
in
no,
committee
we
if you
can
want
wait.
to.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
you
wait.
can wait.
You can wait.
I have a couple questions also while we're on the subject. So our current business in town is both a medical and a recreational.
So this is something
And-
else that changed. So initially, planning commissions were gonna get to decide. Then they took that right out and said it automatically converts.
Automatically becomes a
Right.
recreational.
So we had no control, and I want to make that clear for whoever's out there listening or watching, that the city did not approve the recreational. It was because we approved the medical, and it automatically converted.
Automatically. But don't we have somewhere, I recall us saying that we could not have another dispensary within a mile of that one?
No,
No.
there's no,
Talked about it.
So we just talked about that only. And did we talk about allowing it only in commercial and industrial but not residential? Or did we include that into our zoning?
we do not have any
Restriction.
legislation about recreational or adult use cannabis. We have 2 chapters on the medical, but they don't apply to that.
The medical, does it limit it to industrial and commercial?
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
In
the
some-
the
in
question was, when we replicate that all for now, and it's the same dispensary, so it's not like it's 2 different entities, do we want to allow it in, say, the central business district? Because one of the concerns we had was parking, and we asked and they complied and they bought the property next door. They expanded their parking because when they opened up, it was a mad show where people were parking on, people's lawns and stuff. So I think there's code here. We don't need my opinion, we don't need another moratorium. We need to put code in place that we decide how these things roll out in the future.
So right now, I'm sorry.
I just am curious, because I know like when the state said, okay, the medical becomes recreational, can a dispensary be just recreational?
Yes.
Sure.
But then they do need to go through a process.
Yes.
So they would have to come, we couldn't just have one automatically open now.
Okay.
They would have to come to planning commission.
I mean, not that I
But
don't
they
see why
didn't
someone
ha-
would do that, but.
Yeah, 'cause
They
then
would,
lose
they would not have to
prospective
come to
customers,
planning
too.
commission because we do not have code that says that.
Okay.
The code I'm proposing
I thought that
does.
the way that the last version of it was written is that new establishments had to come through a city's planning commission.
No, I don't think
Okay.
there's any requirement from the state. They have to go through the state
Right.
regulations, and they have to identify who those people are and all that. We have specific, regulations we were considering that we put on hold that I think we should just reintroduce.
Okay.
And make those decisions. And, if you want to wait another month, that's fine. I don't know that there's any rush.
I think just reintroducing those maybe next month and having a
Okay.
good conversation about those next month would
Do
would
we,
be
do we have
beneficial.
anybody asking to open a recreational or personal use one
Mr.
now?
Finney's usually the one they approach.
Yeah, okay.
Not that,
So we
not
don't
that we're
know.
aware of, yeah.
Yeah. Or Dennis might know some information too. if
Yeah, I'm meeting
others
with
were
Dennis
interested.
tomorrow, so I can ask him some more about that, if he has any information.
And then there's decisions, the city, we're getting ready to adopt this master plan. How does
Right.
something like this fit into that? Where would it fit in? What kinds of regulations would we like? I personally think that it would be abhorrent to put something like this in the central business district,
I would agree.
especially what we just went through on DRC about all of this, keeping our historical integrity. So I would really think that it would
Yeah.
be contradictory to turn around and say, well, but.
Let's
You're
throw
gonna-
one right
If you're gonna
downtown.
put a mothership 2.0,
Yeah.
that's what they call the one in Streetsboro. It's got the big UFO. It's called the mothership. I would not like to see that anywhere near
Yeah.
that area. Or really anywhere, but, okay. So can we have an agreement to put that in for next month? Okay.
It's up to you and your committee.
Christina, do you want that in for
Yes,
next month?
please.
Okay. And then that allows Amy to be
Yes, I'm going to throw
part of
this.
that. Okay, management update, if there is one.
I don't, in the interest of time, I'm going to waive.
Okay, so no management. So I am adjourning my meeting at 8:43.
So for community and economic development, I have one item on the agenda, and I have a general question to ask before I move on. Are we possibly able to meet maybe half an hour before the meetings next week and not meet tonight? Because I have 5 minutes
To
and
meet tonight. Oh, for your
for
committee?
my committee, and one of my members is already gone. So just so we can be fresh and actually have a great conversation about storage unit
You can schedule
moratoriums.
your committee meeting whenever you like.
Well, I guess
It's up
I'm
to
asking
you.
my committee, would that be okay if we just maybe came in a little early, 15 minutes?
You are the boss.
'Cause
Could you record that in the minutes, please, Chelsea?
Yeah, for the record.
I don't want to feel rushed with it. I want to have a good conversation about it, and one of my members is not here, so, okay.
Okay. Then we-
So then it's scheduled for next week at 5:30?
What time do we start next week? 6?
Yes.
Yeah, so 5:30, if we could meet? Okay. And anyone else that would love to join us, to talk about storage unit moratoriums, we would love to have you.
I will be there.
All right, thank you.
I guess as you prepare for the meeting, I guess one of the questions. You only got 5 minutes.
She didn't call.
No,
me.
you're fine. Go ahead.
the whole purpose of
I guess.
it? Moratorium. Yeah, what's the whole, what's the whole purpose?
What's that?
Did you actually convene your
Yeah,
committee?
did you want to call it to order?
I would
table
like
the
to
thing,
not
and
call my
adjourn?
meeting to order, no.
Okay, I think that's.
No, no meeting. We'll meet on the 20th at 5:30 PM, please.
210 Parkway, favorite usual spot.